Violent protests, a prime minister's resignation, and an army taking charge. Nepal is facing one of the worst political crises of its times. But normalcy, thankfully, seems to be finally returning. After Prime Minister Oli there stepped down, around midnight yesterday, the army chief met with the protesters. Demands were heard. Talks with the president are now on the table. As Nepal stares at a political reset now, the question is, who is ready to lead this nation on the edge? There are some contenders, we'll talk about that. But first up, welcome and hello. This is 5 Live. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. We'll be looking at today on two key stories emerging from Nepal. First up, on what about the Indians who are actually stuck there. We'll speak with some of them. What is the plan to actually bring them back? Over 400 Indians are still stranded in Nepal. No way or no news yet of how they will come back. And then the political turmoil. What is it leading to? What exactly will be the next step and the next gen of Nepal politics? Two key faces have risen to the fore. There is Balendra Shah and Rabi Lami. Now, they are speculated to be in the running to succeed KP Sharma Oli. But who are they? How are they placed in the race for the top? We'll discuss all of that and a lot more. First up, take a look at how was day 3 of Nepal unrest today.
Two days of rage, fire and fury. But now Nepal is breathing just a little easier. The army has taken control. Boots on the ground, curfew in place, and silence where there was once chaos. Although there have been incidents of violence and arson reported from some parts. In Birgunj, violence spilled over. A jailbreak attempt forced police to open fire.
And you can see pictures here yesterday night, yesterday afternoon, how this area was literally burning. Several vehicles were torched here. Several buildings, the public buildings were also set on fire. So the protesters went on a vandalism, they went on a rampage. The entire city was in chaos yesterday. And following Prime Minister Oli's resignation, thereafter the situation went out of hand, and now what we are learning is that since last night, the Nepal army has been given instructions to take control of the situation.
Tuesday's rampage left the capital scorched. Private offices, public buildings, even parliament set ablaze by furious protesters. India Today went inside the parliament, now a skeleton of burnt furniture, smashed windows and seared history.
And we are getting you those exclusive visuals from inside the Nepal's parliament, inside the complex, inside the Nepal Parliament House, where the law was drafted and legislations were brought into effect. This is the main entrance of the main complex of the floor of the house, and from here the lawmakers used to come. The Prime Minister, the cabinet ministers would take same steps, but probably they forgot as to why they were brought here. This is the entire grand structure which has been now brought down by the Gen Z.
The destruction didn't stop in Kathmandu. Nepalganj too bore the brunt.
This courtroom and the premises of district court could speak everything, that everything has been destroyed, has set on fire by protesters. Smoke continuously coming through this window which has been broken by the protester, and now this is a real picture of Nepal, which shows how intensive this protest was. And still, you can see this fire which has set on. These documents, and nothing could be saved in this courtroom.
At midnight, the army chief met the protesters. Demands were heard. Talks with President Paudel is now on the table. And as Prime Minister Oli has stepped down, two faces have risen. Balendra Shah an independent and outspoken voice during the youth-led protest, who refused to enforce harsh crackdowns and won praise from the youth. And Rabi Lami Chane, leader of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party and a former TV journalist, known for his anti-corruption stance and strong youth appeal. He was dramatically freed by prisoners from jail during the recent unrest. The two are now being seen as possible successors to Oli. As Nepal stares at the political reset, the question remains, who will lead a nation on the edge? With Amit Bhardwaj, Rohit Singh and Ashish Srivastav in Nepal, Bureau Report, India Today.
And more updates coming in from Nepal, where curfew continues to stay in place in Nepal. Curfew will be in place from 5 p.m. today. That means it's already on till about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. No one will be allowed to be present on the streets as well. This is expected because we were now going to see the army actually take full control, and then only the next steps to be known on what's going to happen. Let's bring in our reporters very quickly to get an update. Rohit Singh is joining us live now from Birganj. Rohit, news coming in of day 3. Things seem calmer compared to yesterday. There is also a curfew now. Curfew was there yesterday as well, but today, does it look like that it will actually be enforced? Have the agitators had their say now? They've retreated back?
Well, Sonal, see, there's an uneasy calm that is prevailing in Birganj town, which is located on the Indo-Nepal border. And as I speak right now, curfew is already in place since yesterday. And right now, I am at the Ghantaghar Chowk, and this area was basically the epicenter of all the violent protests that took place in Birganj in the last 2 days. But since yesterday night, we have seen that the army has now finally taken control of this entire area. And since morning today, there has been no massive protest that has taken place inside the city. You can see here army personnel, army jawans manning the entire area since last night. However, there has been an attempt of jailbreak in outer Birganj area. However, in fact, what we know is that the prisoners tried to break the wall of the jail from inside, and in that incident, the police had to resort to firing also, and 3 prisoners were also injured in that incident. But apart from that, not much protest was witnessed in Birganj, and therefore we are seeing that on the ground there is an uneasy calm that is prevailing. But the bigger challenge now remains, Sonal, that now Oli has stepped down as the Prime Minister of the country. So who is the next face? Who will become the Prime Minister? Whose government will be formed? And what will be the future of Nepal from here on? That remains a big question. But as of now, most important is the return of normalcy and peace in this Himalayan republic. And we are seeing that ever since the army has taken control, there is some sort of an uneasy calm, at least that is prevailing on ground zero. Sonal.
Let me also bring in Amit Bhardwaj, who's joining us from Kathmandu. Amit, we saw that report as well that you brought in from inside the parliament on what is in fact left of the parliament now, if one can really call it that. Would it be fair to say at this point, from what you guys are seeing on the ground, that now army is fully in control of the situation? Is it safe to say that? Amit, if you can hear me? All right, let's try and patch that line. Let's try and patch that line again with Amit. Amit, if you can hear me, I'm trying to understand, is it safe to say now that army is fully in control of the situation? There seems to be calm and uneasy calm nonetheless, as Rohit was saying. All right, let's go back to Rohit for a bit. Rohit, can I take that question to you then? when the question that comes to mind at this point is that why did it take so long, perhaps, for the army to respond in this manner? The calm that has been brought in, and if indeed army is in control, as you are reflecting at this point, why wasn't this done earlier?
Well, see, Sonal, what really happened in the last 2 days, we're seeing that the government of Nepal, Prime Minister Oli himself remained completely defiant over the entire issue, over the entire protests that were going on by the Gen Z and the youth of Nepal. And that is why he blocked several social media platforms also. But he, in fact, I think he failed to realize that the issue was not only related to banning of the social media platforms. The issue was much bigger, and that was the massive rampant corruption charges on the incumbent dispensation, lack of transparency in the government, rising inflation, pathetic condition of education in the state and in the country, in fact, and how children of ministers, MPs and all those were studying abroad. So all these things used to be highlighted on social media by the youth of Nepal. And in fact, I think Oli failed to recognize that fact, and he remained defiant for 2 days. But when he saw that the situation has completely spiraled out of hand, then we saw that yesterday afternoon he tendered his resignation before several ministers in his cabinet also had already resigned from their post. And later on we saw the Prime Minister Oli also, in fact, tendering his resignation. So that is why I think it took almost 2 days before the situation spiraled out of hand, and he stepped down as the Prime Minister, and later
why did the army respond to so late? Why couldn't the army sort of step in earlier and ensure that the things did not escalate the way they escalated? But we'll get to that in just a bit. Rohit, thanks so much for joining us. But let's look at what next. So at this point, because raps are pretty much an important part of this entire uprising, well, if the appeals being made by some of the young protesters are any indicator, a rapper is likely to be a contender to succeed KP Sharma Oli. Now, who is Balendra Shah? You must have seen his pictures all over. Internet is buzzing about him. But let's give you a little bit of a background. Now, before becoming the mayor of Kathmandu, Balendra, or Balen as everyone calls him, was part of Nepal's underground hip-hop scene, sort of spitting verses about corruption, inequality, frustrations of young generation that they had felt, but felt was also ignored. His major break came in 2022 when he ran for Kathmandu's mayor as an independent, with no party backing, no big political machinery, just banking on the trust of young voters. And he won big, defeating heavyweight party candidates and sort of shocking the establishment. Who is this guy who's just arrived on the scene, not just of hip-hop, but politically as well? Now, since then, Shah has become the face of a new kind of leadership in Nepal, one that speaks directly to the people, often through social media. On September 8th, that's right, before the protests began, remember, he put out a tweet calling out for KP Sharma Oli's crackdown on protesters. He said Oli is a terrorist and couldn't be even a human, let alone a leader. Balendra Shah speaks a political language that blends rap, reform, responsibility, and it's a language that's clearly appealing to the people of Nepal. Just yesterday on the same program, remember, we spoke with so many eyewitnesses and I asked them all the same question. Do you see one person who can actually bring everybody together? And they all took his name. So what's this charisma that he has? From rapper to engineer to mayor, and now the face of change. Could Balendra Shah now be becoming the next big force to lead Nepal, the next leader of Nepal? That's something that we'll wait and watch for. But he's not the only one, not the only contender. Let's look at the next one. If it's not a rapper, the one face that clearly has the protesters' backing is Rabi. He's called Rabi Lami Chane. So much so that he was freed from the prison by the protesters themselves. Remember the jailbreak that we were bringing you and talking to you about a little while ago? So who exactly is Rabi? Now, the man who was just in prison until yesterday and is now suddenly being talked about as Nepal's next prime minister. Now, he's a former TV journalist known for confronting corrupt officials live on air. But when protesters broke him out of prison, Rabi himself was behind bars, awaiting trial. Guess what? For a fraud case. His dramatic rise and fall story appears to now be the rise again. But let's rewind a little bit on his story. His story did not begin in politics. It began on television back in 2013. He even set a Guinness World Record by hosting 62 hours non-stop talk show. And that's how people got to know him. He's bold, he's relentless, he's someone who asks uncomfortable questions and a nightmare for corrupt officials. In 2022, he swapped the studio for the ballot box. He launched his own party, the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, and promising clean politics, the youth loved it. His party shocked everyone, winning 20 seats in its very first election. Soon after, he joined the government coalition and was the Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister. But his meteoric rise was soon followed by scandals. He faced questions over his citizenship, allegations of misuse of funds, even fraud charges in a case that landed him behind bars, of which he is now free. We don't know for how long, though. But despite all these controversies, his popularity hasn't really dipped. Hours after KP Sharma Oli resigned, protesters stormed into the Naku prison in Lalitpur and freed him. For them, he's still the anti-corruption crusader, the outsider who speaks their language. And that's why today he is now once a TV journalist and then even a jailed politician and now speculated to be in the race to becoming Nepal's, or getting Nepal's top job. So very interesting profiles that are really emerging. Let's bring in our guests now to understand which way this could actually go. Joining us is former Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar. He's a former Indian diplomat. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking at these two very distinct personalities, what connects them or the only factor keeping them together at this point, or the only common factor is that both are young leaders. Both are names that are being speculated about on social media. Now, we are not sure if social media actually will get its way, if politics will actually turn out to be this way, but what's your understanding of what happens next in the process? Currently, army is in charge. What happens next? How will the election even take place?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much, Sonal, for having me, and thank you very much for giving this very detailed and comprehensive account of the situation as it prevails there, and also, the different contenders for the top position. You're very right. There's an uneasy calm. The army has stepped in. To the question that you raised, why could the army have come in earlier to restore order and stability and security? I think the real answer would be because the army chief wanted the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli really to step down before they could, take any action. So I think once that took over, and in any case, I think what we had seen was that as far as the young people are concerned, the youth is concerned, there was so much of pent-up anger, there was so much of frustration, there was so much of angst that they went about, breaking everything, engaging in arson, looting, etc. And once that energy, etc., had come down, that was the time we really to sort of, bring calm. That is the most important thing, to bring peace, stability, calm in the country. And that has been established. Now, the way forward, I think, basically, army enjoys credibility, army enjoys trust of the people, and army has the instrument of power to enforce what it says in terms of maintaining calm and quiet in the country. The second institution, I think, which continues to be in position, although there were reports yesterday that the president also has resigned, but I think the president is very much in power. So it is the chief of the army staff and the president who will have to come together to see whom to invite. There is no provision for an interim government or an interim administration in the latest constitution of Nepal that was adopted in 2015. So I think this will have to be some sort of, and also, I think the people who have been on the streets who have been protesting, they would want that the parliament should be dissolved and that there should be new elections that take place. So I think we really have to find ways towards that. But what it appears most likely is that first, tranquility needs to be maintained. Go in for elections, have a new parliament come into position, and as the regime has been saying, they would like their own representatives to come in and to take be at the helm of affairs, rather than these established parties are totally discredited. That is why you saw that Sonal, it was not
Yeah.
only KP Sharma Oli and his ministers, but it was
Yeah.
also Prachand, it was also Sher Bahadur Daiba, whose houses were
And
attacked
if I
and
can
they
take it forward, sir,
themselves.
it was not just that, it was the judiciary, it was the courts which were set on fire, some media houses that were set on fire as well. So discontent and anger and irritation with things not going right, and that frustration with the youth was felt across. And more young people that we've interacted with in Nepal say that we want a directly elected prime minister. We want a young person there. We don't want these ministers whose kids have these so-called nepo, lives, wherein they go abroad, they have fancy luxury bags, and what you're left with for people of Nepal is actually nothing. It's just more taxes that doesn't lead to much. But, I want to take this a step forward now, and Pranay is also joining us. So stay tuned with us, because you spoke about those detailed ones. I've got one on General Ashok Raj as well. Now, at the center of this entire response has been the army chief of Nepal. You can question why they came late. You can question how they've managed to restore, finally, some uneasy calm. But who is this guy? Let's sort of decode that a little bit as well. Now, the Chief of Army staff since 9th of September 2024. He's a veteran officer and a distinguished career one with as well. He's a general. Sehgal has also held pivotal roles during the recent crisis. He played a decisive role under his leadership. The Nepal Army actually deployed troops to hotspots across the capital, enforced curfews to prevent further escalation, took firm public stance against vandalism and violence, and also protected civilians and evacuated officials from high-risk zones, and even sort of reportedly advised political leadership to step aside as a measure to diffuse tensions and restore calm. Now, General Sehgal's leadership during this entire critical period has positioned the army as a stabilizing force amid one of the most volatile political crises in recent Nepali history. So that's a little bit about him. But I want to go back and bring in Pranay also at this point. Pranay, there is no precedence to this in the recent history for Nepal. But at this point, could you see General as this one uniting force? At this point, it's being speculated as one because it was after that statement that we're playing out on our screens right now that things actually calmed down a little bit. But is it not fair to question why didn't the army take a more aggressive stance, preempt this, or perhaps even saved their own leadership?
Obviously, Sonal, there are very many questions, and those questions are very open-ended questions on the current situation of Nepal. But if you see, as an institution, Nepalese army is a professional army. If you see General Ashok Raj Sehgal, who assumed the charge of the Chief of Army Staff of Nepal in 2024, he jumped into a situation and in fact, the Nepalese army, Nepalese troops were guarding not only the Kathmandu city, they also rescued in Maharajganj just a while ago. The Nepalese army posted on social media a video where the Nepalese army helicopters was sent in Maharajganj to rescue the police personnel. So definitely army as an institution has means with apparatus and everything to calm down the situation. Obviously there are questions that why did not they come in when the situation was actually spreading nationwide, and why did not they contain the situation, why it was left to the armed police of Nepal. And in the police forces of Nepal, army was only deployed of late to guard the Baneshwari area, the parliament of Nepal, but the situation was not contained. And when they got into action, by the time Prime Minister was already resigned, and the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigned only after having a conversation with the army chief, and after that army rescued. I'm being given to understand that still former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, the family members of the cabinet ministers and the ministers, they are under the custody of the Jangi Adda, which is called the military base of Nepalese army. So they are in custody of army. So definitely army as an institution is a force which is stabilizing the situation right now. And they are also dealing with so-called these Gen Z representatives. We do not know who exactly are these individuals and do they have that authority? Will they prevail or how army is going to concede to their demands? So currently a high-level meeting is going on at the presidential palace. The president is chairing a meeting is in consultation with the army chief also. But definitely army is an institution which has, so far in last 24 hours has contained the situation and their troops are already on streets.
All right. Okay, so Pranay also confirming there that all those reports of KP Oli actually fleeing to UAE, etc., are all false. He remains to be what he's calling under the custody, which basically means that he's under the protection of basically the army at the moment. And so are the family members of several other political leaders as well. Let me take a last comment very quickly from Ambassador Ashok. Sir, I'm just trying to piece this together to say that this is a country which at the moment does not have a court, does not have a parliament to operate on. The getting back on their feet situation is a long haul. In the interim, are we safe to say that the situation is completely contained? There will be talks that will take place largely helmed by the army chief, and then a mechanism will be devised on what happens next? Or are we to say that immediately there will be a leader? Are we looking at an immediate election, or are we looking at an immediate sort of a leader who will, interim situation will be handled through them?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because, some similar questions will arise. But if you look at what has been the experience in other countries, not in Nepal, Nepal democracy has come in only very recently, from 2008 onwards. And then, under the new constitution from 2005. And we've seen that over the 17 years from 2008 till now, there have been 14 prime ministers. So, democracy as an institution and other institutions, Sonal, as you mentioned yourself, even the Supreme Court was torched and, it was not, even the students and the young people, they did not, hold them also in high respect. So as far as the institutions are concerned, they have not really been able to stabilize or establish themselves. I think what is the issue right now is, if you look at the other countries' experiences, that first we will have to have an interim government, which will bring the stability, which will bring the calm, peace, quiet. Because in addition to everything else, what is it that has brought this on? It is the fact that the economy was not doing well as far as, corruption, misgovernance, lack of jobs, inflation. So that also has to be controlled. So, there has to be an interim government which will bring in quiet, which will try to put to the extent possible the economy on the rail, and then make the conditions viable and feasible for independent, free and fair elections to take place. So I think that is the way to go forward, because just having elections without any authority in even an interim authority in place. And I think what is good, what Pranay said rightly, is that the president has taken control of the situation along with the army chief. I think that is the way to go forward.
Yeah, but who's going to take care of the situation? You need somebody with experience, and the youth, the young people and the youth in Nepal actually don't want any of the old guard there. So this is a tricky sort of a situation for people to handle and to see who will actually sit well, even in the interim position. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. But let's also now, staying with Nepal, move on to the other big story on what about Indians who are stranded in Nepal. The last time we checked, there were about 400 of them, about 190 in this one flight alone. So let's get a sense from one of them. Preeti Chaudhary is an Indian who was traveling to Nepal for work. She currently, as we speak, is still there and is figuring out her way on what to do, how to come back. The airports are still not operational. Preeti, thank you so much for connecting with us. Firstly, take us through the sequence of events. What exactly happened in the last 48 hours with you?
We were headed out in the morning yesterday and realized that all hell has broken loose in Nepal, and we headed back to the airport at around 11 o'clock and to catch a 2 o'clock flight, Indigo flight to Delhi. We went all the way up through to the gate with our boarding pass, and we saw our flights hover around above on the tarmac, and then we understood that the flights are going back and the ATC is not allowing the flights to land. Thereafter, the Indigo staff and the Air India staff that was there, we were about 4 plane loads of Indian citizens, but then just flights going to India. Said that the airport is shut down, and please go back and clear immigration, like reverse, take your bags out and do what you would like, So we said we are not going to. Once I understood what they were saying, we said we can't step out because outside it was there were fumes of smoke and there was tear gas. Military was outside, and we just figured that it would be best to stay inside the hotel, inside the airport, sorry. And we remained there. All of the staff just fled. Thereafter, the airport staff also left. And we just spent the night there. We were waiting. We contacted the Indian embassy. They were pretty helpful, but we understood that there was so much going on in the city, they weren't able to do much. But around 10 in the morning, they did come, and they took our names down, and then they've grouped us together, and they've done what they call a rescue operation. They've put us into vans in small groups, and over about 3 hours, they brought us out, and now we're in sort of like what I might compare to like a Paharganj or Karol Bagh kind of an area where little less charming, and we're just like put in these places. I'm still trying to orient myself here and where we are, and we have no news. They said that just wait it out. We don't know anything more. And outside the airport, somebody from ATC came and told us that no flights are going to land here till maybe the 18th. But I find that really hard to believe. So I'm hoping we can get back.
All right, so that's quite an ordeal, and that's not a situation anybody wants to be in. And Preeti must say that you've been very calm through the whole process, and you still, you've kept your cool through it all, which is nice to see. Take us through also, I'm assuming since you're being able to contact us, you must have made contact with your family. How many other Indians like you are stranded at the moment in the hotel where you are?
Yeah, so yesterday there were about 700 people at the airport. Thereafter, some of them took like a risk and just walked out of the airport. And the thing about walking out was once you're out, the door's shut and you can't come in. So some people just went to nearby hotels, I guess. But for about 180, 90 that were left, the Indian embassy just came and they took our names down and they got us out.
Okay, so you're saying about 700 Indians. That's more than the number we thought, really. And about 190 of them in the same flight that you were in.
That's just the ones who stayed back at the hotel, at the airport, I'm sorry. The rest just left. We were more. We were about 4 plane loads of people going back to India.
All right. So how are you feeling, Preeti? Like I said, you've been pretty calm through the whole interview in telling us what happened. And you're right now also what looks like with bags all around you in this very small, dingy hotel. All right, just hold on, Preeti. We've got some updates coming in, some important updates coming in from Nepal. Let's quickly go to that. We are now getting in news that consensus has been met amongst Gen Z to bring in former Justice Sushila Karki as the head of the government. That's what Nepali media is reporting at this point. That former Justice Sushila Karki has been given a go-ahead by the youth, by the protesting people, to come in and head the interim government. Now that's a big development over there. Not the Gen Z names, not the youth names that we were looking at, but this one name has taken people by surprise as well. Like we were discussing, it will require somebody who has the expertise, experience, perhaps to handle a situation of this magnitude. And there the name is Justice Sushila Karki. Now, Pranay joins us for more on this. Pranay, tell us a little bit about Sushila Karki. What exactly is her background? And interesting to say that the young people have actually agreed to that name.
Sonal, if you see the name of Sushila Karki served as the former Chief Justice of Nepal, and she was the one who actually overruled many of the decisions of former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. So that makes her name very interesting. But as you rightly pointed out, that if it is a Gen Z protest, they were expecting some young leadership, but they actually brought the consensus on bringing the former Chief Justice of Nepal, and that to be a retired person. But definitely, I think that the army chief and the president and other constitutional functionaries of Nepal have also prevailed, because a country cannot be ruled by the novices or people, those who do not have experience. And currently, it's a very turbulent and a very volatile situation of Nepal. And let's see, how she does and how she forms an interim arrangement, because ultimately Nepal, if they have to keep their democracy, they have to go for the fresh election. But this is yet another country where we will be witnessing an interim government, an interim arrangement like Dhaka, which is still continuing. And, Mohammed Yunus has announced the dates of election, but elections are still far, because it's February 2026 is the date by which Bangladesh should be having elections. So now we have to see that by when this Sushila Karki-led administration is going to announce the election, what is going to be the structure. So these are the things. Right. But if you see the name of Sushila Karki, she served as the former Chief Justice, and she overruled many of the decisions of
So a well-known critique of Prime Minister KP Oli. In fact, there was an impeachment motion also against her earlier, which was later withdrawn. But she has been chosen and has been agreed upon, her name has been agreed upon by the young protesters to actually run an interim government. So that's some big news coming in. All right, what phone are you using? Are you an Apple user or an Android user? Well, that's the big debate. But if you are an Apple user, well, you must have been hooked to your TV screens for the past 24 hours, because the new iPhone is now out. It is said to be the thinnest iPhone ever. Remember, Apple never says it's the thinnest phone ever. It says it's the thinnest iPhone ever made. The spotlight is also on iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max, built to be the most powerful iPhones to date. But not everybody agrees. Take a look.
Apple's iconic mobile and watch series have been overhauled with this dazzling Silicon Valley show. Apple has officially unveiled the iPhone 17 series and called it its most advanced lineup ever. Apple launched the iPhone Air, a revolutionary new iPhone that is billed as the thinnest iPhone ever made.
It has the most powerful chip inside of it, the A19 Pro chipset, and also a 48-megapixel fusion camera, which again also has the enhancements of capturing at different apertures and magnifications. But the best part is that you are getting the sleek form factor, 5.6 millimeters thin and a 6.5-inch glass right in front of you. Just gives you everything that you'd want in your iPhone.
But the spotlight, of course, was on the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max, billed as the most powerful iPhones to date. Luckily, Apple did not skimp on the processor. There has the same 3nm A19 Pro chip as the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max.
camera island has been completely changed. It now comes with triple 48 camera setup on both the phones. But the best part is the selfie camera now shoots in center stage. Now both these phones come with the new A19 Pro chipset, which is more powerful. It also comes with a vapor chamber cooling system inside. Just showing you a comparison of the two sizes of the device. This is how I'm holding in the hands. Moreover, the rear looks exactly the same, and on the front, this is what both the devices look like.
This next-gen iPhone reboot has grown in size. 6.3 inches for the Pro and 6.9 inches for the Pro Max. And the price starts at 1.35 lakh rupees for the iPhone 17 Pro and 1.5 lakh for the Pro Max.
This is the rear camera system, 48 megapixels at the top and 12 megapixels at the bottom. They are using a new ceramic shield, which again is offering you more endurance. But again, the new A19 chipset is what people are talking about. You get multiple color variants for the new iPhone 17. This is again a new color.
Pre-orders kicked off on September 9th, and these feature-packed phones will hit stores globally on September 19th.
It comes with an A19 chipset. In terms of the color, you have plenty of options, and it is very thin, 5.6 millimeters thin, and this is what the front of the display looks like. Again, 3000 nits. This is one of the brightest iPhones that you are getting.
This time the iPhone 17 isn't just an upgrade. It's Apple's loudest statement yet. With Cyrus John reporting from Apple Park, California, Bureau Report, India Today.
So are you impressed with the new Apple iPhone? Well, let's take a look at what Cyrus felt about it. He's joining us live now from the Apple Park. Hi there, Cyrus. You've got a sense of the thinnest, sort of slimmest phone Apple has ever made. Again, just to identify, it's not the thinnest phone on the planet. It's just the thinnest iPhone ever. People seem to forget that distinction very, very clearly. But can I read out to you some of the Samsung tweets that have come out? Samsung came out to troll iPhone completely. They say stuff like, oh, call me when you can fold. They say, actual innovation or just hype? They say, okay, so 48 MP into 3 still doesn't equal 200 Mbps. What's going on? And a lot of some very valid points. So, as somebody who's still torn between what is this big hype about Apple iPhones, do you have a take?
Good morning from California, Sonal. I think this is like a past battle between the two. Both of these companies like to compete with each other, try to better each other in terms of technology. Apple, on one hand, is one company that says, okay, I might launch the technology, but I'll take my time with it. I will develop it. Samsung is like 2 years ahead in terms of technologies. They have a foldable phone. They have 200 megapixel camera. So I think that battle, regardless of how it wages, it doesn't really affect the consumers, because we still understand that in the premium category, Apple still dominates, and there is a reason for that.
Why?
It's the experience.
I really want to understand why. It's like Apple is the Gurgaon, right? It's really full of problems, but somehow it is so cool that people don't leave Gurgaon. So Apple is the Gurgaon of phones, really. People don't know what to do without an Apple, despite all the flaws it has.
Well, you cannot deny the fact that the company, when it was started, it came across as not only a technology company, but also a luxury brand. It's the way that Apple markets itself around the world with celebrities. And you also look at their brand marketing also. It pivots towards offering more luxury and also a comprehensive ecosystem. So while Samsung, yes, is one of the biggest brands in the world, Apple clearly says, okay, we will be giving you an experience that nobody else can offer. Yes, Apple has its problems, its restrictions. You might not be able to transfer a lot of things. You might not be able to get memory. But despite all of that, Apple still dominates in the premium segment, and it just speaks volumes of the kind of services that they have been able to consistently deliver. Yes, I mean, but
Cyrus, let me ask you this. The world right now is moving towards AI, right? Apple AI hasn't performed, has not delivered. Any other Android phone, on the other hand, has Gemini, has other stuff that can, very easily integrate. It is faster, it is easier, it folds, it's smaller. I can go on and on. So isn't Apple worried about this competition where they're really lagging behind, where even iPhone lovers like me perhaps are questioning, dude, what do you got to offer?
That's true, Sonal. A lot of the critics have come out and said that Apple really hasn't upped its game when it comes to Apple Intelligence, because they launched the feature about a couple of years ago and still haven't been able to catch up with the likes of Google and what Samsung are doing. And the fact of the matter is they had a fair advantage when they launched Siri with the 4S. That was years ago. But the problem is they could not use the user data. So Apple's privacy kind of is restricting them in training their Apple Intelligence, their AI. And in that department, Google and Samsung did not have a problem. They used all of our data to train their AI models, make it better. But Apple kind of stuck to the whole privacy game and said, okay, we will not use any of the data that users have. And which is why in their AI game, they are still lagging behind. And that's the only
Massively.
Department right now, I feel Apple needs to really pull up their socks.
Well, you say only department. I say the minute the new phone is out, dramatically my old phone stops working very fast. Dramatically, something is wrong with my old phone. So all these things we need to look into as well. But have a good time there at the Apple Park. We'll catch up once you're back. Thanks so much, Cyrus, for joining us. Let's also quickly move on to the other big story in the moment that has captured, was captured on live TV and has taken the world by storm. What happened? Sweden's newly appointed health minister, Elisabeth Lann, collapsed in middle of a press conference, raising concerns about her health. Now, the incident occurred when she was standing alongside Prime Minister of Sweden and other officials. She lost consciousness just like that, just fell flat forward, bringing down the podium with her. Officials and journalists quickly came to her aid, and government now securely assisted her from the stage. But it wasn't long before Lann returned and explained that her fainting episode was due to a blood sugar drop. On 5 Live, we always talk about health, so here's a reminder. The episode has also brought into focus the less talked about conditions common in people with diabetes, with hypoglycemia or even low blood sugar. This may happen when our sugar levels drop below the healthy range and at times are too dangerous levels as well. Remember, this is a life-threatening disease. So if you have this condition, remember there are few things that you can do. And what would you need to do to absolutely avoid this condition? Let's quickly bring up that graphic as well for you. Now, if you're driving, if you have symptoms of low blood pressure, for 15 minutes, sit down, get some sugary drink in, get your sugar levels up, and for 15 minutes, do not move, only get back on the steering wheel after that. Alcohol, drinking alcohol on an empty stomach can cause low blood sugar as well. Not raise it, but bring it down if you have it on an empty stomach. Skipping meals, which is what probably happened with the newly elected health minister. She said it wasn't an ordinary Tuesday. She was just getting into the public eye for the first time. She perhaps forgot to have her meals, did not drink enough water, and there you go. Eating consistently helps, especially if you take insulin or any other diabetes medicines. Fatty foods, avoid foods high in fat, and they do not contain much sugar and are absorbed slowly as well. So what to do if you have an episode like this around you, right? What you have to do immediately is to have a quick carb bite, have a quick glucose tablet, have a quick fruit juice and non-diet soft drinks as well to raise your blood sugar very, very quickly and ensure that you have enough people around you who can assist you. Go to a place and get some fluid into you. Sit down and rest. Do not try to fight it out. This can turn very, very lethal if not responded in the first 15 minutes. All right, with that, we've got to wrap up 5 Live today. That's all we could pack in today's edition. Thank you so much for tuning in.